Our officer, Philip Garulu, showed up at our facility on May 22nd, and he came here after 6 p.m. He was here because we had been reported. Now, we were reported for the foxes and the porcupine, which is funny because another rehabber, Sarah Heckathorn, had been harassing us about these animals. She wanted us to give her our foxes. Now, we're provisionally licensed for medium mammals, which is foxes, which means we were still learning how to care for them. To be provisionally licensed in Colorado, you need to have a sponsor, which means we had another wildlife rehabber who's been licensed for decades, sponsoring us for medium mammals, training us how to care for foxes. And she didn't want us to transfer the foxes. We did end up increasing a lot of our cage sizing, and listening to a lot of suggestions, but we didn't want to transfer the foxes. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife showed up May 22nd after 6 p.m. because of this complaint. He wanted to look at where the red foxes were, and he wanted to look at where the porcupine was. Now, we had the porcupine in a little 20-gallon tank because she was a newborn. She had her umbilical cord still attached. She'd only been here a brief period of time, and she was found very critical. She was still recovering. She is very fortunate she survived. And then the red foxes, we had two of them. One was in a large dog kennel, and the other was in a double ferret nation cage. These were baby foxes, not adult foxes. And we were in the process. We had actually finished their fox enclosure, but after talking to Sarah, we had taken the top off, expanded it to make it larger, and we're almost done putting it back together, but we still had to finish putting on the rest of the top and then get them out there. So by the time when he showed up, they weren't outside. They were inside in their other enclosures. And so he came through our facility, and he didn't give us a written warning, which it's my understanding that if they have problems, they're supposed to give you a written warning and a time period to comply. We weren't given a written warning. He gave us a verbal warning and told us that he wanted the porcupine moved into a larger enclosure. Now, I think it's interesting because when he came with IWRC, which is International Wildlife Rehabilitation Standards. So Colorado goes by Chapter 14 for our wildlife rehabilitation, and Chapter 14 recommends IWRC, but it doesn't require IWRC. And I've been to almost every wildlife center in Colorado, and the other wildlife centers are not at IWRC for everything. It's kind of like, my outdoor fox cage is IWRC, but my outdoor squirrel cages aren't. So, which is funny. So anyway, I've been open for 7 years. IWRC has never been required. Colorado has its own standards. So he came in and he had IWRC standards, which I thought was weird anyway. And on top of that, he only had 2 of the IWRC standards. So IWRC has neonate standards, then they have juvenile pre-weaning, and then they also have outdoors. So he only came with the latter 2. He didn't come with the neonate standards, and the porcupine was a neonate. So he did not even have the full So not only did he not have the full IWRC standards, but he couldn't even tell the age of the porcupine. And so anyway, regardless, it didn't matter. I was fine with whatever he wanted. We were willing to do. He came after 6 p.m., so this is when the stores are all closing and everything. He gave us 13 hours until 8 a.m. the next morning to get the porcupine into a different cage, finish the outdoor fox enclosure, get the foxes out, and then clean some clutter up because our laundry machine, our dryer had broken, and so we had to pull everything out of that room, and so it was more cluttered than normal. And so he gave us 13 hours to get these new cages done, and then he would be back at 8 a.m. the next morning. So we were literally up all night finishing the fox enclosure, getting the foxes out, getting the porcupine moved into a new enclosure, even though she shouldn't have been in a bigger enclosure because she was a newborn and very fragile, but we did it anyway. We did whatever they asked. I got it all done by 8 a.m. He didn't show up the next morning. Instead, he called me and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. Can you send me some photos and videos of everything that you got done?" Well, I went ahead and we sent him videos, pictures of everything, proving that we got everything done, that we got all the animals moved into the new caging. And he said that everything was great. And I have these texts from him saying that everything looked great. And then 2 months later, they come back and raid my facility, take my animals, and then tell me that my cages aren't at standard. They fined me for the cages that I fixed even within 13 hours, which first of all, I feel like giving us a 13-hour time frame. I didn't complain about that at all, but I feel like that alone is harassment because it was also at night too. All the stores were closed. I had to go get wire from my dad across town. And so when they came, they basically said to us that all of our caging is against standard, which I just find funny because when he was here with the IWRC standards for the inspection in May, I had said to him, When did we start requiring IWRC? That's never been required. Nobody's at IWRC. None of my squirrel stuff's at IWRC. And then they show up 2 months later, raid me, and then say all my squirrel stuff is against standard, and then fine me for it. Even though they've approved these squirrel cages every single year for 7 years, regulations and standards have not changed. And if at any point they had changed, I would have increased my caging. I already increased my caging anyway. And I'm not against improving. He wanted things done in 13 hours, and I did everything he asked. If he wanted bigger cages or anything he wanted done, we would have done. Anything he wanted done, we would have done. And so I do not understand why we are being targeted like this and why they did the stress of this to our animals. And I know one of the baby animals already died because of this decision, and they are not releasing the information on what happened to the other baby animals. And when they took my critical baby squirrels, they took them off heat, and anybody who knows anything about squirrels knows they need to be on heat. I think it's wrong that they are also not even following their own regulations to tell my sponsor what happened to the medium mammals. Their regulations say that she's supposed to be involved and supposed to know what's happened to the animals. Where are they? What has happened to the babies? And it makes me think that they could have been euthanized or just released, because why are they hiding this information if they sent them to other wildlife rehabbers and something bad didn't happen?